What up, though, everybody? This is Kyle, and you are watching Knockouts and Three Counts. I am fresh off of the second night of WrestleMania 36. Obviously, wasn't the WrestleMania we were all expecting. For starters, man, I mean, shout out to WWE for doing the best they could with, obviously, not ideal, circumstances in this one. I know for me personally, ring the bell, I've been at the last three of them. It was a little bittersweet, man, because I mean, it really has began to become part of a yearly tradition for me and one of the highlights of my year. Um, so obviously this year is a little different just for obvious reasons. And we talked about in the first video, which you can see the link to right there, about my thoughts on night one and what my predictions were headed into night two. Night two kicked off a little bit hotter than I thought, as they put Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte in your first match on night two of WrestleMania. First of all, shout out to Rhea Ripley. I think this was a career-making performance for her. I think this is going to keep her in the main event picture for NXT, and shows why, she was the champion. With that being said, I like that, even though that they weren't the best of circumstances, I liked that we kept seeing, the guys and girls, still treated as though it was a WrestleMania. I loved seeing Rhea in the different outfit. You always see her in black. It was good to see her in color. It looked good. She had the crispy fade, though. Charlotte always, with the immaculate ring gear for WrestleMania. As far as the match, I thought the match was a great match. I thought it was a hard-hitting match. I think Charlotte showed why she's one of the best of all time in her leading of the match. I think great selling by Rhea on this one. I think that you had just a great story told in that one, and I think by Charlotte winning this match, I think that it's going to give a shot in the arm, hopefully, to NXT. As I've stated in many times on the show, and I'm sure that many of you would agree. I mean, I would say that it's not too big of an argument at this point to call Charlotte one of the best of all time. I think by having her as your champion, that automatically is going to bring a little bit more plug and a little bit more legitimacy to the NXT brand. Hopefully will help them in their war with AEW. The next match we had, you had Lashley with Lana versus Aleister Black. For the match itself, I thought the match was great. Lashley coming out with tights on, which for me, it was weird to see that, because I'm just like, what? Like, that looked weird, but at the same time, I appreciate the change. I thought it looked good. I think the right person won in that one, Aleister Black, hitting the Black Mass. I hope that this is finally the start of the split of Bobby Lashley and Lana. I'm all for trying stuff that's different, but to me, I just never connected with the whole Lashley and Lana storyline. So I'm hoping that, that little bit of dissension we heard when, she called for him to spear Aleister Black and it led to the Black Mass, I hope that could be the end to that. The next match from there, you had one of the matches that I personally was looking forward to most on this show. I think in Edge versus Randy Orton, I definitely think the location of it hurt the match. I thought the match was still great, but I think if you could have done it at an arena and, they would have fought all over the place, I think it would have helped it a little bit more. But the fact that there were no fans also, I think, helped it in the same degree, if that makes sense, because, it just seemed that more personal, as they were fighting through the Performance Center. The gym kind of gave it a little bit of a thrown-off thing, but I have to say the way they finished it with Edge, finishing Randy Orton off with the concerto, I thought it was great. I think both men showed why, Edge is a Hall of Famer. Randy Orton's definitely going to be a future Hall of Famer. Man, he finishing it with the concerto definitely a great finish to that match. I still thought it was a great match. The next match after that, shout out to past guest of the show, Austin Theory. As he said, he's been one of the fastest rising stars in wrestling right now. You can check out our link to our interview with him right before the Evolve 10th anniversary special, where he took on JD Drake for the Evolve Championship, and it had a special appearance by Paul Heyman. You can find it on the WWE Network. Our link to our interview is right up there in the corner. It was him and Garza versus the Street Profits in the Raw Tag Team title match. As far as the match, I think the match kind of lacked a little bit of chemistry, and how couldn't it? I mean, they just threw that in with Andrade breaking his ribs. So the match wasn't exactly my favorite, but I liked the involvement of Zelina getting in there and then having Bianca come out to kind of step up for Montez Ford. I mean, the chemistry between them two is undeniable. I thought that was a good touch to the match. Not my favorite, match on the card, but again, shout out to past guest of the show, Austin Theory. It was great to, see him do his thing there. From there, you had the Firefly Funhouse match. The Firefly Funhouse match, I've seen a lot of people online, just in what I was seeing on Twitter. A lot of people were complaining, saying they didn't like it. They thought it was too theatrical. I, first of all, got to give them big credit on the way they started the match, because by having Cena come out like he was going to come to the ring, I'm like, oh, shit, man. Please tell me that they're not going to not have the production level that they had for the Boneyard match the night before, when you've got something like a quote-unquote Firefly Funhouse match. I thought the match was done very well. I liked how it had so many layers. I liked how they went through all the different parts of Cena's career, and Cena going through the different parts in Bray's career. I think the right person won in this match. I, again, liked the production value of it. My only critique on that match is I would love to kind of see a little bit more of... I would have liked to seen a little bit more of a fight. But again, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought there was a great story told. And then that takes us to, the main event with that match being Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. Or, yeah, the Universal Championship, excuse me. They both look damn near identical, except one's red and one's blue. I think the match was what it needed to be. I mean, you had a quick match. I liked that they showed strength for Drew, while still showing Brock to be a killer with all the F5s. But again, I didn't ever think we were going to get a big, long, drawn-out match to that. I think the right person won. I think it makes Drew strong. I mean, obviously, I would imagine we're probably not going to see any more of Brock Lesnar until this whole COVID thing is over. I think Drew is somebody that could be a champion for WWE to hold it going forward. I mean, he's somebody who's believable. He's what Vince likes. Obviously, everybody knows Vince likes the big guys. Drew McIntyre's got a great story, which you can check out on the WWE Chronicle and all that stuff that they released this weekend as well. He really worked his way back up through, Impact and ICW and, Progress and Evolve and all these places, to make his way back to WWE, then winning the NXT Championship, and now he's got the not the Universal Championship, the WWE Championship. Congrats to Drew McIntyre. I think he definitely deserves the title. I don't know what they're going to do with Brock Lesnar going forward, but I've said for a while, it looks like that seems to be the next guy for them. And with Paul Heyman at the head of Raw, I mean, Paul knows what to do with things. I mean, how much full control he really has, nobody really knows. But I think, like I said, Drew McIntyre could be a good champion. It's just, who is his next challenger? Does he go against Brock again? I don't know. Do they bring somebody else in? I would imagine they're going to probably try to get some fresh blood in there, since Brock's had the title for a while. I don't really know where they go from here. Overall, I have to say, WWE did a good job with what they could. You got to realize, I mean, the Performance Center obviously wasn't the conditions they wanted. Being someone that had tickets to be there, man, I wanted nothing more than to be sitting in Raymond James Stadium with 80,000 people watching this stuff, live there in person. That being said, I think they did the best with what they could. In hindsight, maybe might it have been a better idea for them to not do it. Maybe. But again, as they always say, the show's still got to go on. I thought there were definite high points. I mean, for me, I would say my favorite match of the whole WrestleMania had to be either the Boneyard match or the Firefly Funhouse match. I really enjoyed those. A lot of people are shitting on them. I like the cinematography of them. I like the production value of them. I also was a big fan of the Edge match. Like I said, if you listen to any of our episodes, which you can find at Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you find your podcast, or here on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button when you're done watching this. You won't miss anything. I've talked about in the shows leading up to this that the Edge versus Randy Orton match was the one that was sticking out most to me. Edge was a favorite of mine as a kid. I've always been a Randy Orton fan as well, so I had high expectations for this one. I think all in all, especially given what they had to work with, I think they definitely knocked it out of the park. There were some dull spots, but again, they're not working in front of a crowd or under normal circumstances. Those were my favorite matches of it. The Elias Baron Corbin match was but but then you had good comedy stuff in there as well. Like I enjoyed the way they finished the Otis versus Dolph Ziggler match. Match might not have been the best, but I liked how Mandy Rose came out to come help him after Otis had kind of been getting hoed around by Sonya Deville and Dolph Ziggler. All in all, again, I think they made the best they could with what they had. I just really hope that as we go forward, as we've watched on AEW, you've had, full shows that are keeping up with their regular storylines. I hope the WWE adopts that in the weeks to come. I appreciate, showing great matches like what they did with Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24 on SmackDown, and the stuff with The Rock from WrestleMania 32. But I mean, my thing is, while that brings, more eyes to it for like an ESPN, like sure, show all the old stuff when you're showing stuff on ESPN, but for those that are usually watching your programming, I hope that we can get to more shows here, more reminiscent of what we're seeing from AEW, or just like a more full show that's keeping up with your regular storylines. That's my biggest thing going forward, but on a serious note, please, guys, be careful with this COVID-19 pandemic. We're having a hard time. Everybody's in this together. If you can help the next one so that they don't, that they don't have to keep going through this, and do whatever you can to do your part. And shout out to anybody who's essential workers. I'm out here in the at the post office and things like that. So shout out to the carriers, the clerks, the medical professionals, the police, anybody that's affected by this. Be safe. Do the best you can. Check on your loved ones, check on your friends, and make sure you stay subscribed to us. We're going to keep putting you out this content, and keeping you guys entertained while we're all on quarantine for COVID-19. Go back and check through our back catalog. You can see interviews with Ricky Morton, Zicky Dice, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Excalibur, MJF, Nyla Rose, DDP, Booker T, Eric Bischoff, Bruce Pritchard. We've got them all. You've got Miles Jury from the UFC and Bellator, Sam Alvey from the UFC. I mean, we've got you guys covered in the content realm. Like I said, I'm Kyle Collison. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Detroit Knockout, Detroit Knockout. And make sure you're following the show at KO3C Pod on Twitter and Instagram, KO3CPod.com. You can see the whole backlog of all of our past episodes. And if you're in the market for a house, don't forget our friends at Stransky and Company. And with that being said, be safe out here, guys, and make sure you stay tuned. Peace.